We're going to kick off because we always run out of time. So thank you so much for joining us live. I'm just going to drop a couple of things into the chat that you may want to go back and look at as Tim and I are talking. Just some details about Tim's course and also our amazing clinical discussion group, which I will reference through this session too. And I've already dropped in the link to YouTube, which is where you can find the recording to this session. So, off we go. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, and a very warm welcome to this NOI Group clinical discussion. My name is Joanna Taylor, and I am Director of NOI Group Europe, and I am joined this morning by Principal NOI Group Teacher and my very good friend, Tim Beames. Good morning, Tim.
Good morning.
For those of you who are new to these sessions, Tim is co-author of the Graded Motor Imagery Handbook with David Butler and Lorimer Moseley. He brings over 20 years of experience teaching graded motor imagery and works as a pain specialist with complex and chronic pain patients. So it's great to have you here this morning, Tim. Could you just tell everybody a little bit about your current work and the projects that you're involved in?
Yeah. Good morning, afternoon, evening, etc. Yes, and very, very early morning for some people as well, by the looks of it. Thanks for checking in. Yeah, so have a mix at the moment. So I see people in pain, mostly CRPS and chronic pelvic pain syndrome, so men with pelvic pain. And we run group work as well as working individually for them. I am part of the Pub Scientifique team, where we obviously bring some educational material for clinicians. We're trying to boost the knowledge out there, aren't we? And improve people's, not just their competency, but their confidence as well, working with people in pain. And I've just got a call where we are researching male pelvic pain as well. And yeah, super, interesting area. I feel like I want to share that work already, but yeah, but it's a really interesting area, and I help with the pelvic pain matters team as well. So yeah, what I've got, and what else do I do?
Tons, absolutely tons. Do you think you could just drop the link to Le Pub Scientifique into the chat? So if anybody wants to check out Tim's other areas of interest, they can, and also pelvic pain matters.
Yeah, I can do that.
Thanks very much. That's absolutely great. So you can check those out, guys. Le Pub Scientifique has a free membership and some really nice content in there, like short little clips of pain hacks, like 90 seconds. So they're really nice. Go and check that out if you want to. Okay, thanks, Tim. So these sessions are all about giving you a taste of graded motor imagery, or GMI, and how to practically use it in the clinic. Now, some of you would have already done a GMI course with Tim maybe. And for those of you who have, these sessions will reinforce what you've already learned. But if you're new to graded motor imagery, this will give you a taste of what is covered in the core course. Tim has an upcoming 3-day GMI course starting on the 26th of November. For anybody interested in attending, we'll give you some more details about that at the end of the webinar. So just hang around and you'll be able to find out more about that. A couple of things to mention before we start. Tim and I are going to be talking for about 20-25 minutes. If you have any questions, please pop them in the chat or the Q&A and we'll monitor those, get to as many of them as we can. And if you want to watch the recording of the session, it is available on our YouTube channel, where you will also find about 50 other of these sessions, both related to graded motor imagery and explain pain. It's a massive resource, absolutely brilliant, with Tim and a whole range of the other NOI group teachers. So here we go. Today we are talking about graded motor imagery and the essential guide to brain-based rehabilitation. So we're going to cover the three core components, the conditions that benefit from GMI, and why modern graded motor imagery requires individualization. And we're going to leave you with a practical way to identify appropriate patients. So let's start with the basics. Tim, could you explain what graded motor imagery is and walk us through the three core components, please?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And as with ever, Joe, sort of you prefaced it with something that I have. It's like I want to just make small changes, if it's all right. So GMI, let's say, because I've been calling it GMI 1.0 and GMI 2.0.
Yeah.
So the idea here is the original conception around GMI is the 1.0 model, and that was very much based on an understanding that was quite brain centric.
Yeah.
And necessarily the way that we explain GMI from that 1.0 model is as a brain-bound phenomena. And if we look at it like that, GMI, a part of the role of GMI was to help to reorganize the brain states of people who were in pain in a graded way. So you're gradually exposing them, in this case, to movements, hence the motor part of it, in a safe way. So exposing someone to movement that was painful, that they were struggling to be able to engage with. Um, how I would articulate that now, and I will come to the components in a second, is a bit different. So I'm calling it GMI 2.0, and I'm trying to find ways of separating this brain-centric, getting away from that and saying embracing the whole person, because we can't separate our decisions out from us, the whole of us, and that has relevance in what I'm going to talk about in a second. The components of GMI, the three components are a left-right judgment. So we call that implicit motor imagery.
Mm-hmm.
And many people will have seen the games involved in this, where you're choosing whether or not you're seeing a left or a right hand or foot, or whether or not someone's turning to the left or the right with their neck or back. So that's one component. A second component is visualizing, imagining movement, usually from a first person perspective, although it might be from a third person perspective. So in other words, watching someone, usually you imagining yourself and feeling yourself move. And the third is using a mirror to give back a sense that the reflection you see is the hidden part of your body. So we'd call that mirror visual feedback. Coming back a little bit, so the choices of left and right now are important, because we used to think that they were these implicit or unconscious choices. They're out of your awareness. And what we now know is that your emotions, as an example, your emotional states to seeing a picture influences your decisions. And we can see changes in the decisions relating to the implicit experience of emotion as well. And there's relevance in what we'll discuss later in terms of what we see when we're analyzing the data, and how we might then present that back as well from a treatment perspective. So yeah, I'm keen to sort of move us, and that's, if you're on the
Sure.
course, you'll get that I'm moving us towards a 2.0 version,
Yeah,
trying to figure out what that is basically.
absolutely. So what I'm hearing from what that's really interesting. What I'm hearing from what you've said there is that GMI has evolved hugely since its initial conception, and that it is becoming much broader, from being just brain centric to a whole person approach.
Yeah, exactly. And
Okay.
one interesting thing is that GMI is originally, Lorimer studied this in people experiencing CRPS, complex regional pain syndrome, phantom limb pain, and brachial plexus avulsion injuries. And at that time, the assumption was they were very much sort of brain dominated pain conditions. But also a part of his rationale, as I understand it, is that these conditions were typically conditions that we really struggle to be able to help.
Yeah.
Sort of enigmatic conditions in that they had everything difficult, if you want, as part of the characteristics for clinicians to be able to work with someone. What
Mm.
is interesting, if you take CRPS as an example, is there are so overt signs in the body as well. So it was kind of always not quite right to separate brain from body. And I feel that it is important to bring that back in, and obviously thinking about phantom limb pain and the loss of a body part, body is still highly relevant here.
Mm.
So yeah, there's been a shift, there is a shift, and I'm keen that we sort of move that with us as well.
And that brings us on really nicely to the next question, which is that you're what you're saying here is that actually GMI is has a much wider range of application than it was initially thought to have. Can you tell us the which pain states, movement problems that you're starting to see that it is actually really effective for now?
Yeah, yeah. So exactly. So why sort of limit it to using GMI if we're seeing a
Mm,
benefit for GMI in something like CRPS where it is enigmatic, where it is challenging and it does include so many different ch changes within that person that are quite disabling. Why not use it for movement disorders? So someone with focal dystonias or someone who is maybe immobilized as well. So they're struggling
mm,
to be able to move or they can't move because they're in a cast, for instance. So yeah, there are changes there in terms of how could we offer something not pain focused now, but to do with the person and the engagement in their world. So
so you're talking things like post surgery.
post-injury, post-surgery, yeah.
Okay,
But movement
okay,
disorders could be something like a functional neurological disorder as well. And we've used it with stroke people. I haven't personally, but I've heard from others where they've been using it in Parkinson's and MS
wow.
as well. So yeah, the scope really, and I mean, I've heard again, I haven't used it myself, but I've heard people explore elements of GMI in eating disorders as well. And if we think of the heart of what is at GMI, one of the rehab principles of GMI was exposure and an exposure-based process, and
Mm,
and exposure and trauma has great relevance here as well. So yeah, I think we used to call it the baby and then we'd call it the unruly toddler, and then we're probably now we would sort of see GMI more like a probably like a teenager, young
yeah,
teenager.
yeah. So
Um,
interesting.
and then one sort of observation I've had this week is I've seen a patient, I think I saw, what day is it today? Tuesday. So it must have been yesterday, Monday, where they said, I've already had mirror therapy and it didn't really work for me. And what's interesting is, yes, mirror therapy might be a part of GMI, but that's not all of it. And I feel like where, and perhaps this is a discussion that we can have here, is perhaps we need to engage a little bit more deeply with this sort of science to understand what it is that we're actually trying to offer to someone, and
Yeah,
instead of just going, I'll try this. Trying it, yes, but exploring it in a more knowledgeable and more known way so that we can get some good feedback from it
absolutely.
and understand the potential role or the potential where it won't be right for someone.
Yeah, that's a really broad range of applications, and this is one of the things that has struck me definitely. Just that, and you've talked about this, Tim, just how flexible it is as a treatment protocol, and the you're starting to understand the flexibility of it now.
Yeah, I guess that really stems from this idea of shifting. I mean, it was always a part of the rationale to begin with, but it was
Mm.
very protocolized, and the individualization was present, but it wasn't as broad as it could have been. It wasn't there was more possibilities to go broader, and that's how I would see things now, is that yeah, we to understand the contextual nature of the experience of pain for the individual
Yeah.
necessarily means that we need to explore, going back to my original idea, was, for instance, their emotional state relating to them in their world, or them moving and engaging in their world. And
Mm.
so yeah, and GMI always had that. In fact, that was one of the most liberating things I found when I kind of found myself in the position of having to learn more about it, was how broad the knowledge base that Lorimer drew upon to create GMI. It
Mm.
is actually quite phenomenal and scary, actually, to really wrap your head around all of it.
Yeah.
It is a huge
It's
area.
a lot.
Mm.
Um, and obviously, obviously that's what you go into in the course. So there's always somewhere to go with GMI. That's what sort of strikes me, and that there's a lot of creative possibilities using it.
Yep. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. I've got a couple of quick questions. I'm just going to fire them at you, Tim.
Quick fire round.
We can only go into so much depth in this session. We will be doing another one in a couple of weeks' time. So do keep your questions coming in. And often what we do is we'll take a good question, and we may even look at that in the next session. So let's just would this situation work for tinnitus?
Tinnitus. The the simple answer is I don't know.
Yeah,
But some of the thinking behind what we would do with GMI certainly would apply.
yeah.
So the answer is I don't know. I have, because I haven't used it. I don't see many. Did have someone with tinnitus not that long ago, but yeah, wasn't part of our treatment.
Okay.
Yeah.
And post-stroke
Post-stroke,
pain.
yeah. Well, we published some data on this a while ago, probably 2016. We did
Mm,
some research on post-stroke pain. It was in subacute and chronic stroke, and found that GMI, as it was at that point, so the protocolized version, was helpful to improve movement in the upper limb.
mm,
Yes, so absolutely. We didn't find in that particular bit of research a huge difference in pain and post-stroke shoulder pain, but we did find significant improvement in movement.
mm.
So yes, and there are other studies out there looking at stroke as well. So yeah.
And low back pain, chronic low back pain.
And what's the question? Is it any use in chronic low back pain?
Would one apply mirror therapy with chronic low back pain?
Well, mirror therapy for low back pain is so tricky to set up. But what we have now is we have cameras where, so I have a camera, I don't know where it is, somewhere hidden away, where I can just link it to my computer, my laptop, and then I can have a real-time moving image of
Interesting.
someone, and I just have it behind them. They can look at the screen. So yeah, they've got that feedback, which is the main thing, the visual feedback. So it's more about being creative. Um,
Yeah. And that's it. And this is what Tim does teach on the course, don't you? You teach all these sort of different ways that you can apply it to so many different types of patient and pain presentation.
exactly. I don't often see people with back pain now. When I did see more, then we would do that, and often just even seeing their back, it was the first time they've ever seen their back, and then they've
Yeah.
seen them move, and they're, oh, is this what happens? And it's that a part of that actually is really interesting in engaging. So
Mm,
someone engaging in themselves, in the movement, in the treatment, it might be enough that that's what it is, without
mm.
taking it home and doing it at home. It might be, wow, look at that. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. So this is really helpful. We've got a lot more questions coming in. We'll do our best to get to them. But for clinicians who are wondering if GMI is right for their patients, how do you identify an appropriate candidate? What are you looking for?
So, well, there's a number of things that we're looking for. The first thing is that we obviously would perform an assessment that would include elements of GMI. So you do left-right judgment and you get some data. So from that data, it
Mm,
tells you whether or not you want to use GMI as part of a treatment approach. That's obviously something we talk about on the course, and then how you might use it as well. So, how you apply it is very different for different presentations. Let's say you might use it for one person as a way of creating some sort of preparation in movement planning,
mm,
planning movement in many different contexts. For another, it may be shifting attention and attentional awareness either towards or away from a body part. I saw FND come up in the chat somewhere. So you might manipulate attention, and that's one way that you could do it. It's not the only way. Given that it's not the only way, it's worth us offering someone the options. So instead of saying you must do this, I think we all, if you're clinicians on this call, I think you'll all know that it's important for someone to see the importance and be able to engage in a process as well. So
mm,
if you're offering it as an option and someone's just thinking, why am I looking at body parts on a phone, then that might not be for them. So it's worth having some alternatives as well. And there are obviously some alternatives to explore. I've forgotten the question. I think it was about engaging in the, was it?
yeah, it was about
The,
identifying patients
who,
that would be appropriate for
yeah.
graded motor imaging. But it does seem
And
like
then in
a lot.
in different countries, we obviously we do have some guidelines as well. So in the UK, there is guidelines for the treatment of CRPS that include someone using GMI. So,
Yeah.
and that's advised as part of a treatment process, but that's not always the case in different. And I don't know what that is for everywhere. So that might mean that if you have a population of people with CRPS, then you absolutely need to know about GMI then.
Mm, okay. You mentioned using left-right discrimination as an assessment tool.
Yeah, I called it judgment.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Can
yeah,
you
yeah.
give us a practical example of actually what you learn from doing that with a patient and how that might guide your treatment?
Oh, what do you learn? Well, you learn lots of things because you get sort of real-time feedback of how someone engages in a task and how
When you
whether
say how, do you mean speed, accuracy?
no, as in literally just engaging in being able to follow your instructions and follow the
Okay.
task. So
Okay.
it tells you a bit about that in itself, and you get some feedback as well subjectively. Either during it, some people ooh and ah and get frustrated, and
Mm,
you see changes in them as they're doing it. So you see maybe they go a bit flushed or get a little bit um, sweary or whatever. So there might be changes there that give you a sense of the challenge. You can get some feedback afterwards as well
yeah.
of how they found it. You can score that as well. So you've got a valid measure. You also get data from that relating to the speed. We call that the response time. So
Hmm.
how quick they were getting images correct. We also get the accuracy, so what percentage they get correct of their lefts and right judges. And those mean slightly different things. One more towards how we process information, and we think that relates to a degree to our attention. And the other is towards how well we're able to manipulate and understand movement and our relationship of movement in the world. So yeah,
Mm.
they give us different data, and you can have different mixes of presentations depending on the individual.
Are you using the Recognize app when you're doing that? And that logs the data for you, does it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, this is getting into the practical know-hows, but yeah, it logs the data, but I personally write it down. I'm a bit old school and use a pen and
Mm.
paper still. And then I just,
Old school.
yeah, and then I create like a little, I tabulate it and I create a little, I just create some averages and then look at the averages and yeah, and then I
Yeah, you won't be. You're not alone there, Tim. I
what
love a
create
pen and paper.
using pen and paper. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it's good for your thinking, Joe. As you're
Yeah,
writing it down, it helps you to understand what you're thinking about as you're doing it.
100%.
One of the interesting things, just as feedback, if no one has used it, I'm sure many people have tried it. But if you haven't used it, what's interesting is you get immediate feedback. You get
Yeah,
immediate data. And in this day and age, people love things to be immediate. So there is something about the strength of data in front of you and seeing that visually, which I
yeah,
think which is another way that we can engage someone in that process. So not just how did it feel, what did you notice, but what do we see in this data and what does that tell you? They're all ways of us sort of connecting, getting on board, engaging, and following through with the process as well.
yeah. That's fascinating. It's so true. Absolutely, I hadn't thought of that. Absolutely, spot on.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
I
we do. You have a go, and it's gamifying it as well, isn't
Yeah,
it? So the
it's
left
fun
right judgment,
actually.
yeah, the left right judgment can be really fun
Yeah,
for some frustrating and disappointing and yeah challenging and that's something that comes out as you're measuring it as you're um
yeah.
doing it.
I'm I'm that's brilliant. Thanks, Tim. We're going to sort of wrap up a little bit now, but I just wanted to ask you before we sort of come around to conclude. There was a couple of questions there about whether it has scope for use with FND. That was from Beth, and another one about people with neurological diagnoses, for instance, children or adults with cerebral palsy. So, looking at sort of neurological conditions there, Tim, is it applicable?
Yeah, it's well, first of all, F&D, yes,
Yes.
absolutely. Would you deliver it in the way that it was delivered in the original protocol? Absolutely not. No, you would have to individualize that. And one of the things with F&D, I mean, if you bring more attention to an affected limb that already has heightened attention and processing towards it, then you're actually there's a chance that you can make things a little bit worse.
Yeah.
So wisely choosing it and applying it is important here. But yes, that could be definitely a thing. And CRPS sometimes have FND characteristics and vice versa. So, there are crossover here. Um, what was the other example?
So there
Sorry.
was a neurological
Cerebral palsy.
diagnosis. Yep.
So yes, I mean, the difficulty, as I see it, and again, I don't work with this population, but the difficulty I would see is the age with which you start. And what we find is about 8 or 9 is around the age where you can more reliably get some data and engagement in GMI.
Mm,
Before that is a real challenge, but people will know better than I am. So the youngest I've treated is about 9 years old. I've probably had a few 9-year-olds, and you can just about engage them in the process. That's
okay.
with CRPS. Um, and there may be sort of um, areas, time frames where you are more likely to see robust change
Mm.
than at others. So yeah, at a theoretical level, absolutely. I've heard people using it as well. I haven't myself, but it makes some sense. Absolutely.
Thanks, Tim. It's fascinating. So we're just going to wrap up now, and we're going to talk a little bit about Tim's upcoming grade motor imagery course. And for those of you that we'll come back at the end and I'll just ask Tim for a sort of key takeaway from today to take back with you. So Tim, maybe have a think about that. I'll just gonna run through what people might expect if they wanted to do the online course with you. So Tim, Tim's got a 3-day online course starting on the 26th of November. It is open to anybody, anywhere in the world. It is fully recorded. So if you are unable to join live, you can join live for part of it or watch on catch up or replay as many times as you like. And it is a 3-day format. You will have some hands-on sessions, Tim, is that right? Looking at the different GMI components, workshops, how to think about graded motor imagery, not just what to do, but how to think creatively with it, and learn how to identify when graded motor imagery is appropriate for your patient and it's suitable for which professions do we normally get on the course, Tim?
A real mixture. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll always have one or two people who are doing it for personal reasons, for themselves or for family members. And then we'll have a mix depending on different countries. It will be more physical therapists, occupational therapists, nurses. So a real mixture, sometimes
Mm.
athletic trainers, sports therapists, chiropractors, osteopaths. A real mix, and then occasionally nurses and psychologists. And in Eastern Europe, we get a lot of doctors and physicalists.
Mm.
Yeah, so yeah, it's a real mixture.
Thank you. So, if you're interested in that, all the details are on the NOI Group website. I'll pop the link in the chat, click on through, and you can read the full course details on there. It's a superb course. Tim's been teaching this for a long time. He has been key in the evolution of GMI to the position that it's in now and its flexibility. And if you want to learn about GMI, he is like the best guy in the world. So he's your man. Check his course.
No, no pressure there.
I know I'm not, I know you're very humble, Tim. I know I could see your discomfort as I was saying that, but
Yeah.
we know it's true.
Well, what will be true is I've thought about it a lot,
Yeah,
and and I've met lots of people who've tried GMI in a number of different ways. So
yeah,
we've got, what have we done? 30 minutes to talk about things. That's not long enough, but three sessions together is plenty of time to start that. And I am around. People can contact me. I'm super happy to chat
yeah.
as well.
Yeah, and the courses are supported by these clinical discussions. So that's the whole point of these clinical discussions is for people to get an idea, but also if they have done a course to be able to access a refresher, get access to Tim. We don't ever leave people when the classroom at the end of the course. There's plenty of support going forwards. So Tim, what's your key takeaway from today?
Oh yeah, God, I should have been thinking about that, shouldn't I? Look, I think GMI at its heart offers flexibility and can be extremely creative as well, and that actually is quite liberating.
Hmm.
So if you feel a bit stuck, if you feel challenged, etc., GMI absolutely is a thing for you to explore because it will open the world up for you in terms of pain and rehabilitation.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much. So, thank you, Tim, for sharing your expertise with us today. And thank you, everybody, for joining us live on this clinical discussion. You will find several other clinical discussions on our YouTube channel on GMI. Some will be drilling down into specific. This was an overview, a kind of introduction, but we have got sessions on there that are drilling down into various aspects of it. So if you didn't get your question answered today, go and check out the other sessions and you will most likely find the answer to your question in one of those. There are show notes, you can check transcripts, you don't have to necessarily watch the whole thing, you can find out if it's relevant. So we hope you found it valuable. And we've got another one of these, as I said, scheduled for a couple of weeks' time. So keep your eyes open for that and do come and join us again then. Thank you so much. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day and take care. We'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.
Much. Bye bye.
Bye.